Hello everyone. Let us study the human brain, which is a important part of the central nervous system. Let us study the human brain. This is a walnut. Now it is exactly how the human brain looks like. I can compare this outer shell as the skull, and if you remove the skull, you see the inner part. The brain looks in this manner, and if we remove this, these are the two hemispheres of the brain. So the brain also has such folds on itself. Let us see the characteristics of human brain. It is a highly specialized organ and it is present in a bony case. This bony case is made by the skull itself, which is called as cranium. The weight of the human brain ranges between 1200 grams to 1500 grams in an adult. This is quite a lot. That means almost 1.5 kg of the weight is the head actually bears, and the cranial capacity. This is the weight of the brain. And the cranial capacity also ranges in this manner. It is almost 1300 cc to 1500 cc. So the human brain's cranial capacity is this much, and so we are quite intelligent. The human brain is actually hollow. It is present in the center of the body. So the position is mid dorsal and it is hollow. And what is it made up of? It is made up of billions of neurons. It is almost made up of 30 billion neurons, and these neurons we know do not divide. So the brain constitutes almost this much number of neurons, and much of the brain develops by 6 years of age. Let us see the divisions of the human brain. The brain is divided into three major parts: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. These are also known as, the forebrain is known as prosencephalon, midbrain is known as mesencephalon and hindbrain is known as rhombencephalon. The forebrain is again divided into three parts: cerebrum, also known as telencephalon, diencephalon, also known as thalamencephalon, and olfactory lobes, also known as rhinencephalon. All these words actually has the word encephalon, as brain is also known as encephalon. So in front of this word encephalon, these words like tel, thalum and rhine can be added to make the complete word telencephalon, thalamencephalon and rhinencephalon. Earlier also in my previous videos I have discussed what does encephalon mean. En means within, cephalon means head. Within the head the brain is present. The midbrain is divided into two parts: corpora quadrigemina and crura cerebri. The hindbrain, also known as rhombencephalon, is also divided into three main parts: cerebellum, also known as metencephalon, pons varolii and medulla oblongata. Together are known as myelencephalon. They are also known as the brain stem. Now let us study the parts. We are first studying the forebrain. This is how the brain is situated in the skull of the human body. We are studying the first part of the forebrain, the cerebrum. The cerebrum is the largest portion of the human brain. It occupies 2/3 of the entire brain. It is divided into two halves, the right and the left cerebral hemispheres. It is divided into the right and the left cerebral hemispheres, and it has basically four lobes: the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe and the temporal lobe. This is the figure representing the four lobes. The part which is present in the front is known as frontal lobe, and just behind the frontal lobe is the parietal lobe in blue. The green shows the occipital lobe. This is at the back of the head. Below this is the cerebellum. Cerebellum is shown in red. And the pink part which is near the ear is known as the temporal lobe. So the entire cerebrum is divided into four lobes and each have different functions: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe and temporal lobe. This is the pons viroli, the bulged part, and the yellow part is the medulla oblongata, which constitutes the brain stem. This medulla only continues as spinal cord outside. Let us see the functions of the different lobes. The frontal lobe has the functions for reasoning, all the intellectual part of the brain, the reasoning, planning, speech, movement, problem solving, and consciousness. The parietal lobe also helps in movement. This is the muscular orientation. Recognition through past experience and perception. The occipital lobe helps in visual processing. Visual means whatever we see through the eyes, and auditory means the hearing process. So the auditory perception is through the temporal lobe. So what we see, the visual processing is by occipital lobe, and if somebody hits at the back, I told you the position of the occipital lobe, if somebody hits at the back, usually the visibility hampers, and so the visual processing is actually controlled by occipital lobe. Temporal lobe, auditory perception. It is the ear which is present in the region of temporal lobe. Now the brain actually is covered. Above the cerebrum are the meninges. What are meninges? These are three membranes that cover the brain above the cerebrum. These are dura mater, arachnoid and pia mater. If this is the structure of brain, here is the cerebellum, the pons and the medulla. The three meninges are present outside. This is the head region, and the three meninges are present. So the outermost is the dura mater, the middle one is the arachnoid, and the innermost is the pia mater. So in touch with the skull is the dura mater, and the middle layer is in contact with the above and the below meninge, and the last one is pia mater, which is in connection to the cerebrum. Now if these are the three layers, the dura mater, the arachnoid and the pia mater. This is dura mater and arachnoid, and in between there is a space. This is called as subdural space. And below arachnoid, the space is called as subarachnoid space. And below pia mater, the cerebrum starts. Now this space is not empty, it is filled with CSF. The CSF stands for cerebrospinal fluid. The cerebrospinal fluid is a plasma-like fluid. It is clear plasma-like fluid and it is almost 120 ml in quantity and is secreted by the choroid plexus. This is epithelial tissue and it is all filled up in between this and the ventricles. So what is the function of cerebrospinal fluid? Now cerebrospinal fluid, this is a clear fluid which is more like lymph because it is nutritive and excretory in function. It is both nutritive and excretory in function. It is bit alkaline. It has the pH almost between 7 to 8. So it is slightly alkaline and it is more like lymph because lymph has the function also for nutrition as well as for excretion. So it is providing all the necessary nutrients to the layer to the brain also, and also it takes away all the waste material and also the respiratory gas, carbon dioxide, etc. is taken out, provides oxygen. So nutritive and excretory in function. The second important point is that it absorbs the mechanical shock. If there is some injury on the head, the shock is absorbed by the liquid. Because it is liquid, the liquid has a tendency to absorb the shock and therefore it acts like a cushion. Third, it maintains a constant pressure inside the cranium. There are so many fluctuations in the volume and pressure of the blood, but the constant pressure is maintained automatically by cerebrospinal fluid. And the most important point is buoyancy. Earlier in this video, I told you the weight of the brain. Had this cerebrospinal fluid not created buoyancy, a brain would have crushed itself by its own weight. So buoyancy actually makes it light, and so we never feel the weight of the brain in the head. If there is any viral infection in the meninges, it is called as meningitis. Commonly we call it as brain fever. The small children till 10 to 14 years of age, the vaccine is also present. So meningitis is actually a viral infection, and in between the meninges the CSF actually gets infected. This is the vertical section of the human brain. This shows the inner part, and this is one of the hemispheres which has been shown. The other side of the hemisphere is not shown actually. So this is one of the cerebral hemisphere which is shown in this mustard color, and you can see there are so many folds in the cerebrum. These are known as gyri and sulci. These are actually meant for increasing the intelligence. You can say out of the human brain, the cerebrum occupies much of the space. So the right and the left cerebral hemisphere, this is one of the cerebral hemisphere, the other cerebral hemisphere is not being shown, and outside this are the three meninges which are fluid filled, and the cerebrum actually performs many functions. Since it is occupying so much of space in the brain, it is performing many functions. You just saw in the figure that there are two cerebral hemispheres, the right and the left cerebral hemispheres. So whatever action is being done on the right side of the body is actually controlled by the left side of the cerebrum, and whatever is being done by the left side is controlled by the right side of the body. This is known as lateralization. So it is opposite. If you are writing by the right hand with the help of right hand, and whatever academics you are good in, if you are good at speech, if you are good at debate and writing capacity, if your handwriting is good, everything is being controlled by the left side of your brain. But if you are good in other parts rather than academics, like if you are good at playing, if you are good at playing guitar or any other type of instrument, if you are good at drawing, that means your right side is much developed, and therefore this is meant for creativity, and right side is meant for memorizing and all the intellectual part. So this is known as lateralization. So the two cerebral hemispheres are present which perform different types of function. The two cerebral hemispheres are connected by a transverse band of nervous tissue. This transverse band of nervous tissue is known as corpus callosum. So the two cerebral hemispheres have in between a transverse band of nervous tissue known as corpus callosum. Now the entire cerebral hemisphere you saw was in folds. These folds can be drawn in this manner. So these folds are called as gyri. Gyri is plural. It is gyrus is singular, and sulci. Sulci is plural. Sulcus is singular. So the elevations, all of these is called as gyri, and the depressions are called as sulci. So more the number of gyri and sulci, the more memory or more storage capacity of the brain becomes, and therefore you are good at reasoning and all the part that is making your memory strong. Why is is it so? It is so because these folds increase the surface area. If in a small space you have three folds, while in the same space you have four folds, so if you open up this, you will get a longer region. That means this increase in the number of folds increases the surface area. So more the gyri and sulci, more is the storage capacity in the brain. This is the corpus callosum. You can see it has been labeled over here. The one in brown is the cerebral hemisphere, and the other cerebral hemisphere is this side, and this is the transverse. Transverse means horizontal. So this is a band of nervous tissue which is in connection to the other cerebral hemisphere. So the two cerebral hemispheres are in connection. Now each cerebrum has a ventricle. What are ventricles? Ventricles are the hollow cavities that are present in the brain. It is not totally packed up, but there are certain hollow cavities. The brain has 4 ventricles in the total are 4, and 2 of them are present in the cerebrum. That means one in the right cerebral hemisphere and the other one in the left cerebral hemisphere. This is the anterior horn. I am drawing the ventricle and showing you. This is one of the ventricles, and the other side is also the same. If I just can show you in this manner, this is also one of the ventricles which is present on the other side. This is the anterior horn, the posterior horn, and the inferior horn. This ventricle is filled up with the CSF, and the 2 ventricles that are present in the cerebrum are called as paracele, or these are also known as lateral ventricles, since they are present on the sides of the head. So we call it as the lateral ventricles. It is also known as paracele. So 2 of the ventricles are present in the cerebrum itself. So these are the 2 ventricles, and from this region, this particular region, it comes down and it meets the 3rd ventricle by a small duct. This duct is known as foramen of Monro, and this opens up into the diencephalon. It leads into diencephalon, which is the 3rd ventricle. So the 2 ventricles are present over here called as paracele, and now comes the 3rd ventricle. This is also known as the diocele. And then this is the ventricle, suppose the diocele. This further opens by a small duct. This is called as iter or aqueduct of Sylvius. and this opens up in medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, the fourth ventricle, and this is known as metacele. So the four ventricles are present in the brain. The first two are called as paracele, the third ventricle is the diocele, and the fourth ventricle is the metacele. The two paracele are connected to diocele by foramen of Monro. This is a small duct, and the third ventricle is connected to the fourth ventricle in the medulla called as metacele by a small duct called as either iter or aqueduct of Sylvius. The cerebrum is divided into outer cerebral cortex and inner cerebral medulla. Cortex word is always referred for things which are outside. So outer part of the cerebrum is called as cerebral cortex, while inner part is called as the cerebral medulla. The outer part is made up of grey matter and inner part is made up of white matter. So the cerebral cortex is made up of grey matter and cerebral medulla is made up of white matter. Why do we call it as grey matter and white matter? In my previous video I told you the structure of neuron, and the neuron, the multipolar neuron, it has cell bodies and the axon, and I told you that the axon is covered with myelin sheath which is fatty. So if all the cell bodies aggregate, if all the cytons aggregate, they give a greyish appearance. That means in the cerebral cortex all the cell bodies are present which aggregate to give a grey appearance, while the myelin sheath, which is made up of a fatty tissue due to the presence of fat, it gives a white appearance. So the cerebral medulla is made up of the axons of the neuron. So the arrangement of neurons in the cerebrum is that the cell body is present on the outside, the cerebral cortex, and the inner side is made up of the axon which is covered by myelin sheath. So the myelinated nerve fibers constitute the cerebrum. So this is called as white matter. Now we'll study the activities of cerebral cortex, which is broadly classified into three areas. The first one is sensory areas. Sensory word I have already talked about in my previous videos. These are the areas which receive the impulses from the receptors. Now what are the receptors? These are the sense organs. The sense organs receive, so we call them as receptors, and they register whatever impression they see, and therefore whatever one person is seeing cannot be always the same by the other person. So this is your perception, your sensory areas are working that way, maybe the other person may look it differently. So sensory areas, sense organs receive the impulses and then send it to the for converting it into the effect by the motor areas. So what are the motor areas? The motor areas transmit the impulses from the CNS, that is the brain, to the various organs. So the various organs are called as effectors. So the sense organs are called as receptors and the organs which bring the effect are called as effectors, and there are certain association areas also. Association areas give the ability to register the impressions and respond by interpreting the past experiences. It is associated with memory. Whatever you have learned in the past, it may be recalled, learning, reasoning, and these are called as association from the past to the future. Now this is the third part, which is second part of the forebrain, called as diencephalon. Now what is this place? This is very important because here lies the third ventricle called as the diocele. And what does it constitute? It constitutes the thalamus, and the upper part of thalamus is epithalamus and the lower part is hypothalamus. Okay, so this is actually a sort of a long depression or hollow tube like structure. So the walls are called as, the lateral walls are called as thalamus, the floor is known as hypothalamus, and the roof is known as epithalamus. To the epithalamus is connected the pineal gland. The pineal gland is connected to the epithalamus by the pineal stalk. while to the hypothalamus is attached the pituitary gland, which is also known as the master gland, and this is attached by a stalk called as infundibulum. So thalamus is actually a hollow structure. The walls, the lateral walls is called as thalamus. The roof is epithalamus, to which a pineal stalk arises out, and it is attached to the pineal gland. It is an endocrine gland. Pituitary gland is also an endocrine gland, but it is attached to the hypothalamus by the stalk called as infundibulum. This is the thalamus, the walls of the diencephalon, and the lower portion is the hypothalamus. So this is exactly present below the cerebrum, and the third part of the forebrain, olfactory lobes, are present over here, and these are hanging from the lower part of the cerebrum. Thalamus is present below the cerebrum, and it functions to interpret the sensory and motor signals and channels them to the appropriate cerebral cortex. Since thalamus is present below the cerebrum, whatever is coming from the body, from the below, sensory and motor signals both reach the cerebrum. So thalamus actually is the center for interpreting both the sensory and the motor signals. While this was for thalamus. While the hypothalamus is the control center for the internal control mechanisms. We call it also as the autonomic nervous system, and it is associated with temperature regulation, water balance, which we also call as osmoregulation, blood pressure, drinking of water, etc. So it is the reflex control center, and it is also associated with all the emotions. And since this hypothalamus is connected to the pituitary gland controls all the other endocrine glands. Usually when there is any defect in the endocrine system, if the person is suffering from any endocrine disease, the doctor suggests the person not to take stress, because the pituitary gland is ruling all the other glands, and the pituitary is attached to the hypothalamus, which is the seat for all emotions. So if the emotions, stress, etc. goes up and down, the pituitary gland malfunctions, and so does the other endocrine glands. So hypothalamus is the seat of emotions. It is also associated with sleeping, feeding, and emotions, as I said. The midbrain now, also known as mesencephalon, is comprised of two parts, corpora quadrigemina. This is present above, so we can call it as the roof of the midbrain, and the floor of the midbrain is made by crura cerebri or cerebral peduncles. Midbrain actually is the bridge between the forebrain and the hindbrain. So this lies exactly between the forebrain and the hindbrain. Now quadri words means four. Now what is corpora quadrigemina? These are bundles of four nervous tissue in this manner. These are four nervous tissue which are present, two above and two below. So each is called as colliculus, singular, and two is called as colliculi. Since they are present above, we call them as superior colliculi, and the ones which are present below are called as inferior colliculi based on their positions, and each one is called as corpora bigemina. Quadri means all the four. If you are talking about two, we call it as corpora bigemina. Corpora bigemina consists of superior colliculi and the lower one inferior colliculi. The ones that are above actually are the reflex centers for eye movements. So these are optic centers, so they help in eye movement. All the reflexes from the eye is transferred from the superior colliculi, and inferior for auditory. That means hearing. So whatever reflexes from the ear comes is transferred by the inferior colliculi to the cerebrum. So this is what is corpora quadrigemina. This is present above the cerebral peduncles, or the crura cerebri, as I said, is the floor of the midbrain. These are present below. These are long bundles in form of long nerve fibers which are present in the lower part of the midbrain, and this is associated with muscular reflexes, all the muscular reflexes. And this is important because this also has the iter. From here the iter or the aqueduct of Sylvius is passing to the medulla oblongata. Now let us study the last part of the human brain, the hindbrain, and let us study its first part, the cerebellum. The cerebellum is also known as little brain. Now see in the figure, this portion is the cerebellum, okay, and the middle white portion is the vermis, and it has two hemispheres, the cerebellar hemispheres, like the cerebrum, the right and the left cerebellar hemispheres, and the middle portion, the white portion, is known as vermis. It looks like a leaf, and this is the midrib or the vein that is present in the leaf. So it has a leafy appearance which is present at the back side of the head. This protuberance is known as pons varolii, and this which comes down is the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, as soon as it comes out of the skull from the head, it continues but is now known as spinal cord. So this all, in some of the books, midbrain and hindbrain together is called as the brain stem, and in some of the books, pons varolii and the medulla oblongata is called as the brain stem. Since it is the lower portion, this one is called as the brain stem. This figure is very necessary. This comes in the exam. They are asked to draw the vertical section or the longitudinal section of the brain. So this figure is important, and this is an easy view of the inner parts of the brain. As I told, the cerebellum is divided into two cerebellar hemispheres. The arrangement of the neurons in the cerebellar hemispheres is the same as in the cerebrum. That means the outer part, cerebellar cortex, is made of grey matter, and the inner part, cerebellar medulla, is made up of white matter. So the arrangement of neurons in both the cerebrum and the cerebellum is the same. The middle portion, this was how the cerebellum looked like. This middle portion is known as vermis, and the vermis divides the right and the left cerebellar hemispheres. Now this is present at the back side of the head, and this is mainly concerned with the posture and equilibrium of the body. So the coordination of all the muscles and to maintain the posture and equilibrium is by the cerebellum. So if a person consumes alcohol or any sort of hallucination drugs, so the cerebellum gets affected, and it is so that they cannot walk properly. The walk is actually not proper because the cerebellum could not maintain proper posture and equilibrium. This question may be asked, that why a drunk man loses his equilibrium. So the answer to it is that the alcohol or any type of drug affects the posture and equilibrium because this is controlled by the cerebellum. Pons varolii lies just above the medulla oblongata. It is a protuberance, and the word pons means bridge. So it is the bridge which carries the ascending as well as the descending tracts. Between the brain and spinal cord. So the brain is over here and this is the spinal cord. So the spinal cord and the brain, in between is the pons over here. So pons is acting as a bridge between all the reflexes between spinal cord and the brain. So ascending and descending, if it is going this way, it is ascending tract, this way it is descending tracts. It is a bridge for carrying both the reflexes between spinal cord and the brain. Medulla oblongata is the posterior most part of the human brain, and then it continues outside the skull and forms the spinal cord. The medulla oblongata is having a connection between the brain and spinal cord like the pons, and any damage to the medulla oblongata can cause the paralysis to the body, as well as it may even kill the body, because it controls all the vital functions like cardiac functions, respiratory functions, vasomotor centers. So basically it is the control center for all the involuntary functions. Cerebrum controls all the voluntary functions, but all of these are involuntary. We cannot control the functioning of heart, the lungs, etc., the circulation. So therefore all of these are involuntary functions, and medulla oblongata is the seat of all these involuntary functions. So any damage in the medulla oblongata surely kills a person. So this is all about the structure of human brain as well as the functions of different parts of human brain. Memorize all the parts for the upcoming board exams, and if you have any doubt you can ask me in the comment section, and also see the description box for the questions. Thank you.